Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. And we have ourselves game statuses for this Sunday's tilt in Baltimore. So let's go over it. We do not yet have the practice report for Friday, though. They're still practicing as I make this video. So we don't have full information, but we have about as much information as we need, and probably all the information really that we're going to get for the next couple of days. Some of these guys may be game time decisions, but let's take a look at what the report has. This is for both teams. Let's start with the Seahawks side of things down here. First of all, a lot of the guys who popped up on the injury report this week have no designation at all, which means they are fully expected to play. Jamal Adams, no status. Damian Lewis, no status. Tyler Lockett, no status. Boye Mafe, no status. Metcalf, Jarek Reed, Bobby Wagner. So no concerns about any of those guys as of right now. Even if they don't practice later today, it's not necessarily indicative of anything. So really good news on that front. Also, we have 4 players who are questionable, and 2 of them are, I think, healthy. It's just a matter of, do we feel like we need them right now? And the answer is probably no. Austin Faolu, nose tackle, is questionable, even though he participated in full on Wednesday. And again, I think it's just a matter of, do we feel like we need him? And the answer is no. You have Jaron Reed playing really well at nose tackle, and then you have Cam Young. And you're also adding Leonard Williams on the defensive line this week. You probably don't need Faolu. So I think he's questionable because of that, not because he's actually hurt. Same deal for Kenny McIntosh. He is listed as questionable, even though he was a full participant on Wednesday. Again, I think it's just the same idea. We just feel like we don't need him right now because we like what we're getting out of our current rotation of running backs. We talked about this a little bit with the Hawks Nest last night. I think the right thing to do would be to deactivate Eskridge and let McIntosh take his snaps, because McIntosh can do some of that stuff. But this team really wants to figure out some use for Eskridge. So for now, I think McIntosh will remain inactive, even though he's probably more or less capable of playing football at this point. And why rush it? Why push him out there when you don't need him? We're getting good stuff out of our 3 running backs right now anyway. So I don't think either of those guys, there's like anything wrong with them. I don't think there's anything we're missing out on by not having them out there. I don't think they're going to be active, but I don't think it really matters. So there are really only 2 guys listed here that can make a real difference for this upcoming game. But combined, they could make a big difference. So we've got Phil Haynes, who was a full participant on Thursday. We don't yet know what he's going to do on Friday, but he is listed as questionable. So Phil Haynes, he was expected to play this week. I think he will, but it's not yet set in stone. He could miss this game, and that would be significant because Anthony Bradford, his backup, is also listed as questionable. He was limited on Wednesday, but then shifted down to a did not participate on Thursday, which is often not a good sign. And if we miss both of these guys, that is both of your right guards. So at that point, what do? Do you put Jason Peters there? Do you shift Damian Lewis over there and then bring somebody like Ben Brown up to play left guard? Like, what would you do in that scenario? It's uncomfortable. Do you bump Evan Brown over and play Oluwatimi at center? You have options, but obviously you'd rather have one of your designated actual right guards playing that position. And if it's Jason Peters, you're presumably going to want him to play the whole game, which you don't really want to do with Jason Peters, I don't think. It's like an extreme version of what happened with Gabe Jackson last year, where we didn't want him playing a full game, so we rotated him. Jason Peters is much older than Gabe Jackson was, and probably not in good a game shape as Gabe Jackson was last year. So this is going to be kind of interesting. The good news is Phil Haynes was a full participant on Thursday, so as long as he was a full participant on Friday, then this is probably just a paperwork thing more than anything, because you can't list a guy as probable, and he's almost certainly going to play. Bradford, I am genuinely worried about missing this game, but if Haynes plays and plays the whole game, then Bradford, there's really not much for him to do anyway. So we're going to have to see how that plays out. And that's it for the Seahawks. That's literally it. The guys who are hurt otherwise would be guys like I said yesterday, Abe Lucas, who is not listed here because he still hasn't been activated at all yet from the IR. Nwosu, who's out for the season. So we're clean. We are about as clean can get. Obviously, some of these guys are playing through things, but this is football. That's how it goes. Okay, let's turn the page to the Baltimore Ravens. They're in a similar position where they have very little to be worried about in terms of a lot of the guys that popped up on the injury report this week. Odell, no doubt about his status, good to go. Ben Cleveland got past his illness already, full participant on Friday, good to go. Gus Edwards, good to go. Keaton Mitchell, good to go. Odafe Owe, good to go. And Ronnie Staley is good to go. So a lot of the worries they may have had on Wednesday have been completely alleviated. So, kind of like us, they really just have four guys that they are currently concerned about potentially missing this game, and I think most of them probably will play. You've got Marcus Williams, who was limited all week with a hamstring injury. He's questionable, but the thing with Marcus Williams is he doesn't really need to play that much because they are getting such good things out of Geno Stone and Kyle Hamilton that they don't have room for a third safety that often. So Marcus Williams being out would not even be that big of a loss. So I don't think this is even a big issue for them, even if he is out. It's not nothing, but it's not much of a something. Daryl Worley, coming off of IR, is questionable, even though he was a full participant all week. It's kind of like when Jamal Adams was getting back a month ago and he was injured for such a long time that he needed to practice in full for a while before he could actually play. I don't know if Daryl Worley's really that important of a player, even if he is healthy, though, so whatever. Rock Yassin is questionable. He came back from his illness to participate in full on Friday, though, so I imagine he'll play. So I think they're pretty good in their secondary. They're about as healthy as can be. They have one real issue. Kind of like the Seahawks. They have one real injury issue. Morgan Moses, doubtful. So probably not playing on Sunday is their starting right tackle, who's been really good for them, part of a really solid offensive line. And that presents a pretty significant dent in their armor here because with Morgan Moses out, that means they're leaning on Daniel Falele, who I was a guy I loved in the draft a couple years ago, but so far it has not worked out all that well. And there's a reason why Morgan Moses was starting above him, even though Morgan Moses is kind of a older veteran player who just kind of floats around the league now. But he took the job from Falele because Falele was not performing all that well. So now that's your right tackle, and that presents an issue for this Ravens team. Probably the one health-related issue they have right now. Morgan Moses being out does downshift their right tackle position significantly. And I say that as a guy who was a big fan of Mr. Falele in the draft, but it's not working out so far. These oversized tackles are starting to go extinct a little bit, I think, where it's too much to ask them to move the way they need to move in an offense when they're that big. So that's it, though. That's it. They're clean otherwise. Both teams looking pretty dang good. That's your injury report. That's your game status report for this week. And both teams are not going to have a ton of excuses going into the game. Now, things can happen in the middle of the game, of course. They always can. But right now, both teams have to feel good about their health. See you guys later. Go Hawks. And, yeah, that's your injury report for this Ravens game.